We're no longer playing the victim. For the past 25 years, 30 years, we've had all these Lyme activists and chronic fatigue and so forth activists thinking they're going to win by complaining about how miserable they are. And if you think about it, the nonprofits are set up this way. Once they become a nonprofit, they no longer have an agenda to help anyone. It's just to maintain the nonprofit. You see this manifest in the various ways the Lyme Disease Association of New Jersey and California have this new big data thing where they send out a flyer and say, here, fill out this form, and it's data, which it isn't, it's just hearsay and anecdote. That's useless, about your symptoms, and make a donation at the same time. In other words, for $50, you can tell your Lyme story and it become an anonymous non-data point. And they promote this as data and that it will help people. Only recently did the LymeDisease.org hire some kind of a biologist or chemist to finally come out and say, oh yeah, the Dearborn proposal, nobody agreed with it. Now, this is exactly what I told the FDA in January of 2001 and provided them the evidence with pages out of the Dearborn booklet showing that none of the labs agreed with the Dearborn proposal, not even Wormser's. They all said on average from 8, that was Igenex, to 22% accuracy. That means it was known at the time that they had the Dearborn conference that 85% of the patients were not going to test positive by Steer's Lyme in Europe proposal of excluding all the neurologic cases and only taking the high antibody responders or the autoimmune cases. So they finally did that, 2017. That's 16 years after I blew the whistle on this whole thing. So finally, after all these years of being in existence, I think the LDA was established in 1989, they haven't been able to do a single thing for Lyme patients, such as to prove they are sick. Now, we all know we're sick. I know you're sick. You know I'm sick. We wouldn't be here if we didn't know we were sick. Nobody else believes us. You can't understand or believe Lyme unless you have it. That's the thing of it. So what do? Well, you prove that we're sick with the bad guys' own data. You prove that you know that they're lying about us. Rather than talk about how miserable you are, the best thing to do is go on the offensive, put these suckers in jail, and prove that they know we're sick, that they falsified the case definition, that they lie when they say they can't find persisting DNA. We've proven that forever. There's a million such reports by the bad guys, even Alan Steer and Mark Klempner. Over and over again, you, instead of win by lying down and crying and showing selfie videos of yourself with bedhead and in bed and oh poor me, you instead say, here are the criminal charges. This is what we want prosecuted. The only way you can actually help people who are sick with Lyme is to validate and vindicate their illness. Prove the bad guys know we're all sick. Now, one of the things that I've done on Action Lyme is compile all of the biomarkers of central nervous system disease and destruction that were investigated by the bad guys. And the fact that Robert Schoen mentions GFAP, or glial fibrillary acidic protein, in the spinal fluid of Lyme victims as a reason to promote Lymerix. In other words, Robert Schoen says, here, get this Lymerix vaccine because Lyme destroys your central nervous system. That really happened. So that's what you have to do. And we are now recruiting lobbyists, real lobbyists, to go to Washington and demand a hearing in front of the Senate to then refer to the Justice Department, because that was what we were told by a member of the Judiciary Committee's staff lawyers. We can't make the DOJ do their jobs. The only thing you can do is have a hearing and refer it to the DOJ. So we have this handout now. It's called a lobbyist's handout, and we'd like you to review it and study it. And we have like 4 months before we're actually planning on going to Washington this year, 2017, in the first week of June. And it's going to depend on, all the potential lobbyists are going to be vetted. We're going to have a session before we go, like meeting at the hotel, and I'm going to question people and assure that they are able to give this presentation. So there's going to be like a test. In other words, We're not having any lobbyists go and lobby and not know what they're talking about. They're not going to be talking about themselves. Even if asked, even if somebody in one of the senator's offices, well, how did you do? What did you do to get better? Do not answer that question. You just say, no, here's what we want prosecuted. And blah, blah, blah. They falsified the case definition. Who did it? Who owns the patents? Is there a valid test for Lyme? Yes, and it's owned by Yale University, the very same people who own the patent for Limerick's, Flavel and Fickrig. So why didn't they use this valid test to assess the outcome of Limerick's? Because they knew Limerick's didn't work. Limerick's was, in fact, an immune suppressor. And that's the very reason they threw out the neurologic case definition. They knew the vaccine was causing the same chronic neurologic disease that we call chronic Lyme, but is more correctly called post-sepsis syndrome with the reactivated viruses of all kinds. So that's what we're doing. We're recruiting for lobbyists. No nonsense, no drama, and never answer the question about your own personal treatment. Don't get hooked by that question, either by the press or anybody in the Senate or Congressman's staff offices.